Hello, friends. Thank you for joining us for the second installment of emzed interviews. Last time we were here with Peach. She was a media professional, knowledgeable about all sorts of facets of content creation in regards to supporting it and promoting yourself. But this week and going forward for the next little while, we're going to be going at it in the other direction. We're going to be talking to other content creators at all sorts of different levels of experience and, progress in their journey, whatever that journey is to each of them. So today, our first tribute, as she put herself forth. Aoina, go ahead and introduce yourself. Hi.
Oh, hey, it's me, Aoina, a Twitch streamer. How's it going?
Not too bad. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you again for stepping forth to be my second attempt at an interview. I appreciate your patience with me, you and listeners.
Oh, no problem. I was happy to volunteer. This sort of stuff is really fun, so I was more than happy to do it.
All right, awesome. I've taken some time to prepare a number of questions, just like I did last time. This time we're going to keep things a little bit more focused. So why don't we start off with who? The question of who. Who are you? However detailed or non-descriptive you want to be about that, just introduce yourself to me and to the listeners.
No problem. Well, my name is Aoina. A lot of vowels in my name, which always seems to trip people up, is the first and foremost thing. I guess that's a defining feature about me as a streamer. It's terrible.
I'm not going to lie. When I first saw it, Aoina to me was Aoina.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. The only reason I already knew how to say it when I first spoke to you is because you said it out loud a few times. So.
Yeah, I've learned in my past to do that. But yeah, I'm a streamer. I used to actually be a big YouTube person. That was my first exploration into online gaming and things like that. But then I went over to Twitch, started live streaming, and kind of been hopping social media. But Twitch is where I've been gaining the most traction, getting to meet most of the cool people like yourself.
Oh, thank you for that, homie.
Yeah.
I was actually I'm gonna come back to that because I did a little bit of poking around about you just to get some context and ask some questions. Now, where in the world are you roughly?
So I'm in the United States. I'm actually in the great square state of Colorado, which is kind of Midwest. It's a little west of the Midwest where we got the Rocky Mountains.
Okay, cool. And now tell me, what do you do? So you stream. What do you have a job that you do otherwise? You know what I mean? How often do you stream? Would you call yourself full time?
Oh yeah, I would consider streaming to be full time at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I've actually been working on contract for different companies and things like that. So I do art commissions for graphic design, for vectors, for all sorts of different things that people need, as well as I run two businesses personally for t-shirts as well as for props and 3D printing and things like that.
Very interesting, actually. Those are all of those are fascinating to me. Okay, so that gives me a lot to unpack there. But we'll come back to that in a moment here. So let me just take a note of that. But in the meantime, now tell me the elevator pitch of your stream if you have one. If you just met someone, like let's say you're at a TwitchCon and you're meeting someone else and you want to introduce yourself, or prospective fan or potential business relation, or just you're talking to someone and they're like, hey, oh, you stream on Twitch? And you're like, yeah. And they're like, what do you do? Why should I watch?
Ooh.
What is your stream?
I would say the stream, first and foremost, is like the most chill, fun community ever that can turn any game into something exciting and new with the content that we create with one another, because I'm a variety streamer, so it's like anything is fair game as far as what we play and what we do. We do creative streams, even we do cooking streams, we do in real life stuff. So I mean, it's the whole like smorgasbord, but the people there and the friends you get to make from it are what make it so worth it.
Okay, cool. Well, now this next question, it kind of touches on a couple of the other things that you've touched on already and what I did a little bit of research on. So you said you started off on YouTube. So I was trying to think of like, well, where can I find out information about Aoina? So I scrolled through your Twitch page, and one of the panels mentioned your YouTube channel, Tactical Friendly Fire. And I looked it up, and there hasn't been any content for a while, but I watched a couple of bits of your first videos from 3 years ago, it says, and that was fun. So tell me what was it that made you want to start? Like what got you started?
Yeah, so originally I had no idea about like Twitch, about streaming. I just knew about, the big uber famous Let's Players like Markiplier and Game Grumps and things like that. But I had a friend who was always asking me about my insane Steam library of like 400 plus games. And if I was ever going to play any of them because there were games they wanted to see and they didn't own them personally. And I was like, well, I don't know a good way to go about that. And they said, just, post them on YouTube. That way I can watch them on YouTube or we can do live stream or something. I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty good idea for my friend who had like the crappiest computer in the existence and, couldn't do much with it. So it was just so a friend could watch games is how it started.
That's cute. And I feel you on that, sister. That was what my sort of beginning modus operandi for my stream too, which is to kind of cull through that disgusting unplayed list.
It's terrible.
Yeah, Steam sales, dude.
I know, they get you. They get you.
I don't want to. I tell myself no, but I am watching a few games for this next one. But
I know.
so you did a whole lot on YouTube, and I saw that there was definitely progression in terms of the quality of the content and your editing. So that was cool. So then you moved to Twitch. Now, what was it that initially made you feel you wanted to move to live content as opposed to produced?
It was kind of an interesting segue into it because I was getting a little burnt out on video editing. I would spend 5 to 6 hours on one, 30-minute video clip that would go on YouTube because it would get more and more complex, kind of like you mentioned, not anything crazy, but for me it was enough to take up that time. So I was like, you know what, there's a couple of games I don't really want to edit. I just want to have live versions of them, and that was horror games, things that were just coming out. I felt like it would be fun reactions to see how it could go in real time. And then when I got the response I did with being able to talk to people, like that instant gratification that you don't get on YouTube, it was so addicting and so good.
Yep, I definitely.
I'm not ashamed.
No, I totally connect with that, and I myself, I've put some time into doing really complex, for our skill level, so to say, edits, and you spend so much time just tweaking all sorts of little things and moments that you don't think would make sense, or maybe it's not quite funny, and then you spend literally hours looking for stupid simple assets because you don't know how to make them yourself, it's a whole different workflow, and if you're not experienced with it and not trained, it can be pretty draining.
Yeah, being the whole self-taught aspect, which I think you are along with myself, it's just it takes so much time to teach yourself one tiny little detail that once you get it, you're like, okay, I can use this. But then you get to the next stepping stone that you need to learn something new for, and it just kind of keeps snowballing, and it's just such a time sink.
Mm-hmm. I've literally spent an hour looking for a texture of confetti once.
Oh, God.
It was because none of them looked the way I wanted them to, and I fell into this wormhole of. Anyways, so
yeah.
So
yeah, I feel you.
it was the sort of the instant connection. You were getting a little sick of the editing. Okay, so then that was what got you into it. Now, I guess it was the. I had another question here, which is what was something that surprised you, and I guess it would be sort of that instant gratification, how much you like that there.
Yeah, just how welcoming the community was and how quickly they respond to you, at least in my experience. Even when I was only getting a few followers or a few people to chat, it was such a huge change from YouTube where I would get maybe 50 views after months.
Yeah.
Whereas I could have 50 people stop by in one evening, even if they don't, stick around. It was crazy to see how thriving the community was there and how easy it was to find people compared to how just clustered YouTube is with content creators.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's interesting you say that because I feel like that is just as much an issue, quote unquote issue with Twitch, is sort of the background noise of so many people doing the same thing. I mean, Twitch, I'll admit, I'm not much of a Twitch viewer. It's only more recently that I've started to watch more Twitch. And honestly, even then, it's only within my social circle and network. I watch you, right. I watch people on my team. And mostly any time that I discover someone else, it's because it's someone that one of my network hosts, or they say something nice about them. And I say, okay, I'll go check that person out. But whenever I have gone to look, I find that it's very difficult to sort of parse what is even worth clicking on? Like, there's so many people. Like, when you click on, the top couple of pages of streams or games that are being streamed, and it's just a wave of streams, and every screen looks the same. It's so difficult to decide what's even worth clicking on in the first place, and then let alone finding something that you jive with. So, what makes you feel like you have? What made you feel like, even given that, you had a better shot here than on YouTube?
I'd say the organization, first and foremost, of being able to search by games. That is a huge step up from YouTube. I would try and search for just like a game name in YouTube, and it would go to the most popular people, and it would just be like reiterations of them for pages and pages and pages. Whereas I can just do a couple of scrolls and find a streamer who has like maybe 20 people hanging out in the viewership. And I can kind of find those smaller streams that I think have a ton of potential. And that's how a lot of people ended up finding my stream. So I guess I connected with that and the ability to look through like specific games for what content I was interested in, versus YouTube general search, and the way they display their results is based highly on views per, the creator. It's a little harder for me to find things I like on YouTube.
That's fair. I feel that way as well. Whenever I'm looking for something on YouTube, there's a lot of noise of other content that you find. Okay.
But yeah, I totally agree with you. It's not the golden days of getting into Twitch anymore, where there wasn't nearly as many people who think that if they install OBS and then start streaming, it's as easy as that,
Yeah. Yeah, not quite. Not anymore. Now you got to look pretty. Have your overlays all nice and fancy like.
Mm-hmm. Get that green screen.
They up the maximum upload.
Oh, yep.
6,000 kilobits. 1080p 60. Anyways, now, so let's talk about what the transition there for you. What was something that was easier for you than you expected? Not just necessarily in your transition to Twitch, but in your experience with content creation and growing on Twitch. What's something that you didn't expect to have been as easy as it has been?
That's actually a good question, because I feel like they both had such steep challenges for each of the different platforms that you're going into.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as ease for Twitch, I would say just the content you can find to help with your own creation, as far as tutorials with using OBS, with how to stream in general, the types of technology you need. It was much easier for me to learn that side of it than it was for me to learn video editing on Sony Vegas. Even looking at tutorials like that, they would be 45 minutes long and they would be so convoluted. It was so frustrating.
No, absolutely. Okay. So then the simpler question, what was harder than you expected?
Actually, what you mentioned, like, it's not as easy, but as simpler as it is to find the streams for whatever I want to watch, it is hard to make your own stream stand out.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's a little bit easier maybe than YouTube in some ways, but it's still really difficult. It's really difficult to get a foothold.
Okay. I agree with that. So let me make a note of that. Now, let's see here. So we talked a little bit earlier how when you're giving your elevator pitch on your stream, you do all sorts of things, and I jotted this down for myself. You do cooking, drawing, IRL, your commissions. I think you mentioned that you do that. I don't know if you've ever done that on your stream, like doing any of your design work. But you game obviously as the primary thing. Would you say one of them is something that you feel is more your affinity in regards to the content that you create, or would you like to expand into other ones? Some of the other ones a little more.
Right. I think I would like to be able to expand more in creative. It's just not as reliable as gaming, and even more reliable than being a variety gamer is being kind of a one-trick pony gamer for what you stream, like being the big Minecraft streams or the big PlayerUnknown streams.
Yeah.
People who lock into a game, they just get that consistent viewership, but then when they switch that game, they don't always have those people follow over.
No.
So they got the pros and cons for each, but I think creative, the community there is really interesting, and there's so many different talented people who you can see, like people singing, people writing music, people even programming. I mean, it's just got so many different things you can bring together, which is really neat. So I think I'd want to go creative if I could for more.
Okay, and just kind of expand into that sphere. Now, to kind of come back to what you said a few moments ago in regards to having difficulty standing out, and I guess this kind of also ties into this next question. So I'm going to kind of ask them both and answer as you see fit. Now, I was going to ask, how is it that you feel you've positioned yourself to stand out in the endless scroll of goodness knows what game we're playing? And further, how did your growth? Well, you know what? Okay, let's start with this one. Sorry. How did your growth occur? Like, was there a point that you found, like, where your growth occurred, like where all of a sudden, your stream was bumping? And do you feel you still have that momentum, or has it started to slow down?
So there's definitely a couple of points I can think of when I had crazy growth in my stream that just was bananas for me. And primarily it was when I started, which was in the summertime, which is probably one of the best times to be streaming.
Mm-hmm.
That's when everyone's out of school. That's when more people are watching streams. They have the free time to do it. So I started in a kind of a good time for that month-wise. And then I came in on a beta of a very highly anticipated game called Dead by Daylight. So that's kind of how I made my debut on my stream, was with Dead by Daylight. And that had such huge gains, and that was the only game I was playing for a long time. And then once I kind of stopped playing that as much and I started going into variety streaming, I definitely noticed there was a lull. It got a little bit slow.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, when, breaks would come up, like Thanksgiving break for Americans, or winter break in between semesters, things like that, I would try and focus on new games coming out or new betas coming out. And whenever I played those new games, it felt like it would skyrocket again. So I can definitely see the spikes, and they orient with, the media, the games that come out.
That's interesting that you've managed to pinpoint that. So positioning yourself so that you're paying attention to times when people's viewership is typically much higher, or there's a lot more people viewing, and then specifically looking for things that are, hot button, people are paying attention to those.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's taken me a little while, and I'm only now starting to pay more attention to it. But especially even with just like the time that you're streaming, even like a 2 hour difference can make the difference between 20 viewers that you're getting, which is crazy to me. But I've noticed pretty consistently, like at a certain time of day, I get consistently more viewers at that point of time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting.
Absolutely. And I'll have to pick your brain on that for my own knowledge.
Definitely.
Now, okay, so that's kind of where you're at now. Now, in regards to kind of putting yourself out there, I want to mention now you have, I've called you out on this, saying that it's really cool that you have it set up. You have Aoina.tv as an alternative way for people to watch your stream. And Arcad, actually, one of the people on the Spice Rack team I am a part of, he fairly recently had set up a blog page for himself. Not a blog page. It's a web page, and it kind of has some blog posts of his own. It has his Twitter feed, and there's also a feed for his stream. So his has a few different things that show some information about him, whereas yours, it's just Aoina.tv and boom, it's your stream. So what was it that made you want to do that? What was your intention, your goal? I mean, obviously, this is something that you have to pay to upkeep. So, and in what way do you use it?
So initially, when I was back again, referencing the Dead by Daylight in Steam, you can change the name of, your username and stuff. So I was trying to do clever ways of like twitch.tv/Aoina, but it usually, certain games don't like the /, they don't like the dots. So it was always kind of frustrating to try and get that to work. And usually it was too long of a username anyway. It would cut it off. So one of my viewers at the time, who later became a mod, he kind of surprised me with this idea. And he's like, hey, what do you think about this? I've seen some streamers doing this. It's like, yeah, that's actually a really good idea. And so it was kind of born from his genius, actually. And as it's grown with time, we've been adjusting it and adding more to it as well. There's an area that you can access on it that we don't have a direct link to, but where you can view like time lapses of art that I've done on stream. There's an area where you can see that the video games I've completed, the difficulty they've been on. But we've just been adjusting it, trying to kind of fine tune it before we release the brand new version of the webpage.
Nice.
So the idea of it ultimately is to show off the stream, but to eventually kind of be more of a hub in the way that our COD has made his own page, because his is really cool.
I
but more oriented on streaming for sure.
I love how suavely you say his name. I've always said Arcad, but you
I know
Arcad.
he's pointed that out too, and I can't help it. It's stuck in my head. It's the soft A, and I can't I can't undo
Hey,
it.
no, man. Like I said, it's suave as fuck. So you just keep rocking that.
Oh, I will. Thank you.
No,
But yeah, it's a really cool idea, and it's really easy to, I guess, kind of sell yourself out in video games. Be like, hey, go to just Aoina.tv. No Twitch required. You know.
okay. Now, off of that, here's a question I just thought of. Have you found interest in surprising places, or have you leveraged that simplistic ability to pull up your page instead of having to go to twitch.tv/who the fuck? It's just Aona.tv. Have you leveraged that? Have you shown people that? Have you tell me about that?
Yeah, so for I mean in my Discord for my server stuff, whenever I do go live and post announcement for that, I will link directly to aona.tv. And there were actually instances when I was having issues with Twitch itself not showing me live that it would show me live on aona.tv. For some reason it was the Twitch URL was not showing me live. It was just showing a fixed offline screen. Or when I did go live, it was showing me at, really like 480p, and it was just terrible. so so the Anna.tv really became kind of quintessential in being able to allow people to watch my stream at good quality, as well as when Twitch was having its own issues. So it's been really nice in that regard. And it's also been really handy on putting on other applications like, hey, I've actually just got this web page here. It's not through Twitch, it's just its own standalone, which people seem to respect a little bit more than when you're going through Twitch's URL for some reason. I don't know why.
It seems more like, honestly, I raised my eyebrows. I was like, that's really cool. I'm going to your page where you are streaming, even though it's through Twitch, and even though it's all through Twitch's platform, the API. I mean, my understanding of these things is limited, granted, but the point is you're using their framework, so it's still Twitch. You're just removing all the UI clutter of their web page. It's just the stream and the chat, and it's clean.
Exactly. It's much more personalized for whatever you want to come across as. It's yours. It's not Twitch's.
Now, to that note, which like, I'm really happy with how I'm just gonna pat myself on the back. I think I arranged these questions pretty well.
Give yourself that back pat.
So you raised a point there with showing things, posting things in your Discord. So Discord, I want to say, has been an immensely useful and honestly at this point quintessential tool for managing, maintaining, and keeping thriving your community. It's so great because you have voice chats. You can, delegate and chop up chat channels into topics, make things nice and focused. It's so easy to put your attention where you want to put it. It's so easy to reach out to your fans and your community so that they know where you are and what you're doing at any given time. But I feel like it's at the same time, this is something I've recently been thinking about, and through speaking with Peach, she has also, kind of pushed me farther along that line. I feel like the danger of Discord is relying on it too much, insofar as you limit your outreach to those who have already become a part of it. So what I was wondering when I was asking about the Aona.tv, I was wondering if you've used that to share your stream outside of your community, because I feel like it's an incredible tool to instantly and very easily get someone's eyes on your channel without having to fuck around with any extensions, blah, 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 blah. Like, what is Twitch? What are all these things all over my screen? It's just your stream. So something I've been trying to do is, I've been trying to expand how I use social platforms to try and push my outreach there. Now, tell me a little bit about what you do beyond Discord for your stream. How do you put yourself out there? Because you did mention you do specifically pay attention to trends, you pay attention to vacation time, games that are coming up. But do you and how do you sort of share yourself and advertise yourself to others who may not know you yet?
I've got such mixed feelings on social media at this point and utilizing it for your Twitch stream, because for quite a while I was just consistently updating my Twitter and Facebook. I had a Facebook page, as well as I joined Facebook streamer groups.
Same. I had a Facebook page.
And I would go there, and I would, and I would post whenever I'd be going live. I'd send out alerts to everyone. I would use hashtags like support small streamers or things like that just to try and get into those groups and to get more people to come to it. And it just didn't reliably work. I don't know if there's some kind of hidden like equation for how to get this to work in my favor, but honestly, the best thing I've had happen for me is just picking games that aren't too popular and games that are popular enough to get attention without you being lost within, the rest of all of that clutter. Because in my experience, I just haven't gotten substantial people who are going to keep coming back to my stream from Facebook or Twitter or those other social media platforms. A lot of what I've been using Aoina.tv for has actually been getting affiliated with like Amazon or with sellers and things like that who they can push my website in ads and things if need be.
Okay, so you've kind of pursued the whole social media and haven't seen much gain from it.
Not as much as I see from Twitch's own end, which can be really hard depending on the games you play.
I was going to say, yeah, it sounds like you're kind of walking the knife's edge in terms of balancing, does a game have enough interest in liquid viewership? Liquid insofar as people who aren't watching one specific person, they're just interested in the game content and looking for someone who's engaging enough to keep them there. But at the same time, not just being, the heaving mass that is always the League of Legends channels.
Exactly. And then you have to take into account your own enjoyment as a streamer, because if you're forcing yourself to play this game, it shows, it shows no matter how good of an actor you are, it's going to show. So I don't know. Have you had any luck with your Facebook? I've honestly considered shutting down my Facebook page because it's been so unreliable.
I honestly, to put the focus on me a little bit for a moment, I'm way too verbose. I talk a lot because I have all these ideas and I'm so like focused on communicating them as clearly as possible. So I feel like with Facebook, it allowed me to write more, but at the same time, people probably didn't read anything I fucking wrote because I wrote like these mini novels, like, all right, update time, guys, and then just paragraphs. So nobody wants to see that. So then I would just put little posts and like, a couple of people shared it here and there, but I not met too many people checked it out. Even though I pushed it, I mentioned it on my streams and stuff, but the only reason my Facebook page is still open is because some good couple of friends asked me not to, and I'm too heartbroken to take it down. You know what I mean? Because man,
yeah.
But I didn't find anything from that. Twitter, I've had some interesting interactions through it, some neat interactions. So I value it as a sort of a business tool. And Instagram is actually something that Peach, I would recommend that you take a moment to jump around at least in the first episode there, because she did talk about what she was seeing in regards to uptake from engagement with the content, engagement with the material, because Instagram is visual. You see it, you instantly are able to form an opinion about it and decide whether or not you're interested, whereas Twitter is text. It's like tiny little quips that fly past your screen. Even though you can add pictures, it's not the focus of it.
Exactly. It's kind of hard because you have to juggle which social medias you want to invest the time in and figure out, well, is that the kind of audience that's actually going to be able to be brought over onto Twitch's side of it? Especially with Facebook, it feels like it's so focused on, family relationships, the friendships you've had from high school or whatever, that for me, it's been a little hard to get those strong groups there that can transition well into Twitch. But something I'm curious about is stream groups on Twitch. I feel like those might be possibly the niche to fill what I've been looking for in regards to getting more traffic to your stream. But again, that's still on Twitch's side. It's not using other avenues.
So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. On the one hand, it's like it's very insular, but at the same time, this is where the community is that's already interested in watching stuff on Twitch. It's a matter of making sure that you position yourself in such a way that you're engaging enough to draw those eyes that are wandering.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like so far my limited understanding of it is it's basically just another method of categorizing, but with niches, like you said. So it'll be interesting to see, how people leverage it. Now, let me see. Now, tell me this. What is something that you feel like you need to improve on? there's something that you feel like you've been struggling with, or you don't really feel like you've put your finger on it. And tell me a little bit about that if you have anything like that.
Oh yeah. Oh God. Where do I begin? No, I would say for sure networking and being able to sell myself and talk up about myself in regards to the stream and feeling more confident about it in itself. I mean, every now and then I'll look at my numbers and I'll be like, oh, this feels so weird. And then I really consider the numbers. I'm like, that's actually a really good amount. And I should really be taking advantage of this and pushing it further. And I just don't, I get kind of caught up in details and I'm not sure where to push it. And then I kind of get in my own head and go
Yep.
from there. So I don't know, being able to get over that hump mentally, I think would be one of the biggest things I could do to help myself.
Yep. No, I 100% hear that. It's hard to talk about yourself, but I come from a background of acting. I went to school for that, and really, you are your business. I mean, in this, like, you are the product, and if you don't talk about you, then nobody will bother. Like, you've
Exactly.
got to put yourself out there. It's a hump you got to get over. This is what Peach was saying when I was speaking to her in the last episode. It's just something that you have to get better at. You don't really have a choice if you want to see some, if you want to see the growth in any sort of, scale.
Yeah.
So, well, good on you for calling yourself out on it. Do you feel like you're doing anything to push yourself in that regard, or is kind of like something you're sitting on right now?
I'm at the moment. I'm probably sitting on it. I feel like I was making really good strides with it maybe a month or two ago, but I mean, I think since coming into contact with like the Spice Rack with a couple of other streamers, that has helped me immensely with feeling the capability to grow beyond what I've been doing and to keep making connections. So that's actually helped out quite a bit. Is that in Twitch networking that might push me out further. I just need to figure out where I'm gonna go with it.
Yeah, good for you. I feel like myself, I've also seen a lot of positive interactions and a lot of growth, frankly, just by networking and just talking to people, talking to you and hanging out with your chat. I've met recently a Spicy Space Muffin. He's a really cool guy. All the people in my team that I met beforehand, and we kind of came together and formed the team. Just all this networking and communicating with people. It's fun. It's legitimately, I'm just enjoying it. But a result of it has also been that there has been significant growth for me, because you host each other, you check each other out, you shout each other out. People who wouldn't have heard about you suddenly do. Maybe they become a fan or follower. Who knows? Whatever. But there's a lot of opportunity there. So I think that makes sense. That it's sort of like a safe space for you to sort of practice talking about yourself.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I think that's a good thing to call, and I think that's something we should both leverage a little bit more, is being more confident in saying, hey, I'm so and so. I'm pretty all right. Maybe you should stop by or something. Or don't.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's
agreed.
okay. And all of a sudden, I'm at the back end of it. Okay.
No. It's true,
Yeah.
though. It's true. It's like, it's this weird almost stigma in streaming, which is very strange to me. I mean, when I have Aoina.tv as my Steam name, or when I would drop it in Overwatch, people are like, oh, wow, gotta sell yourself out, huh? Gotta be desperate for those views, huh? And it's like, yes, I am. Come watch, like, of course I'm going to be trying to do that now and then. And it's so weird to me how you get those responses of people who kind of get like offended by it.
Get all
But I
ornery.
mean, yeah, they get a little worked up over it, but at the same time, it's how I've gotten some of like my favorite viewers and some of the most exciting personalities I've gotten to witness who I've played games with then. So it's like, hey, I remember you. You were in that last match. It's just another way to network.
Yeah, fair enough. This completely somewhat unrelated, but right at the beginning when you were saying you're trying to find ways to have like twitch.tv/Aona as your tag and stuff like that, the immediate thought I had then is like, Jesus Christ, I would have hated you so much if I had to DM you.
See? It's true. People have this initial reaction, and then I've had them come by the stream like, oh, usually a lot of times it's the, oh, you're a girl thing. But once they get over that, then they're like, oh, yeah, it's pretty cool here. I think I'll hang out.
Let me see here. Now, moving forward. So, here we are. Now, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but what do you feel you do differently now than you've done before? So, take that in whatever way you want and kind of roll with it for a bit.
Sure. Well, Technically speaking, I've really, really upped the ante on my stream as far as overlays, as far as having scenes, going into detail with like all of the stream label commands and the sound effects and all
Exclamation
this
mark squeak.
like yes, the squeaking. But yeah, all of that has just I've really tried to take that up to like the nth degree without it becoming too much of a like a gaudy sort of gimmick thing on
Distraction.
the stream. Yeah, like I've really tried to make things fun and interactive for the stream without it taking away from the gameplay. So I feel like compared to 6 months ago when I started or whatever, the I just had the webcam with the really, really bad, not properly done green screen in any shape or fashion
Mm-hmm.
with the discount fabric from Joann's and the one light bulb. It was really bad. Like it
Yeah.
was super bad. And it was just my webcam with the game and it just looked really amateurish. I mean, it can work, but it just didn't look good. It didn't sound good with my audio compared to now. I feel like I put much more care into how I present my stream, which I'm more proud of.
Good. Okay. Now, what's something that you started with that you feel like you've kept? You've kept true to, you've brought forward and you've developed and expanded on, but it's something that's been a through line for you.
I want to be cheesy and say hopefully myself and the feel of the stream from the start. People who came in said, this feels like a cool place to hang. You feel genuine. You don't feel like someone who is making fake reactions for the sake of fake reactions. So that's something I've really tried to hold true to and to just be as honest with them as I am with myself as far as when I'm playing games or doing whatever. I don't want something that's, just cheesy and fake. I don't want that. So I'm glad that people notice that, and I hope that I've been able to maintain that.
Okay, good. Now, do you have any ways of, again, we kind of touched on this, but do you feel like you have any ways that you reflect on yourself and your stream and try to improve? I mean, you've said you've upped the ante on things in regards to interactivity for your viewers, improving your visual layouts and overlays and what have you. Are there any other ways you feel like you've done that, or we feel like we've hit that pretty cleanly?
Oh, no. I mean, I feel like there's more ways for me to improve, just not in that regard, but in other ways of like interacting with more like doing console gaming is something that I'm completely new to now. But I'm really glad I'm able to introduce that to the stream because it opens up so many more games and so many more options. So I think that's been an improvement on the stream as well. And but that with that comes ways to make sure the content itself is good. I've struggled so much with getting, resolutions correct or making sure the PS3 works versus the Xbox versus whatever. So
Yeah.
learning curve, but I think it's worth it.
Yes, I agree. Arcad and I are 50-50 on a capture card right now, so it's a bit of a pain in the ass whenever the other one has it, because, oh, fuck, I wanted to play this GameCube game. Shit. But, okay, cool. Awesome. Now, what is your vision for the future? And I guess this kind of ties into my next question, so I'll ask them both at the same time. Now, so what is your absolute dream? So what is your vision? Like, do you have a sort of a more realistic where you're kind of shooting for? And do you have a separate dream, or are those the same thing for you? And does what you do for your work play into that at all?
So I used to be a firm believer in the plan B strategy and making sure I had that fallback. I was pre-med for a while,
Yeah.
which not many people know, but I was pre-med. I was all set to get ready to go to med school. I was like working my booty off. I was an EMT on an ambulance. I had everything planned out. I was like, I'll just do streaming on the side. I'll just do this stuff on the side. It's not, it's okay. This is just a side thing. And if it blows up, then cool. If it doesn't, then I've got medical stuff. But I quickly discovered that the problem with this line of thinking was that my plan B was becoming my plan A because I couldn't put any effort into making a good impression with streaming because all my focus was on plan B. Like, I have to make plan B work in case plan A doesn't. But plan A is not going to if you can't put anything into it. So for me, there's most certainly still plan Bs in case things don't go well. But ideally, I would love to be able to get into more like interactive esports, social media, seeing how much further we can take technology with streaming. I think it'd be really neat to be in that line of work, or else heck, anything with gaming, to be honest.
Okay, you mentioned esports. That's interesting for me because
Yeah.
I don't. Well, actually, no. Never mind. Overwatch is very much, It's very much being positioned as an esport. I don't know that I've seen it have the same sort of uptake as the more traditional ones. You know, League, Dota, Rocket League has a little bit of following. Smash Bros is a big one. The fighting games in general, Street Fighter and what have you, they're the legends there. So, what is your specific interest in esports again? So, would you say that is Overwatch, or does it expand beyond that?
Initially, I actually used to be a big Call of Duty player. Like I
Oh,
used to
right,
do
I
it
missed that.
competitively,
That's an
things
obvious
like
one.
that. Yeah, no, no, it's all good. So I mean, that used to be what I thought I was gonna go further with, but I kind of got bored with Call of Duty and I moved on, started doing other things. But Overwatch has really brought back my love for how fast thinking you need to be, and when you're working within a team, how you
Hmm.
need to coordinate with one another. And it had an advantage over Call of Duty in my mind for how the heroes work and their abilities work. So it's just a little more creative in that regard. And the esports and watching the tourneys and stuff have just gotten me so excited over that.
Hmm.
So I love it.
Yeah, the other one I missed that was obvious was Counter Strike, but yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I feel the same
Yeah.
way about Smash Bros. Melee is my vice, but it's really amazing seeing the game pushed in that way, and then just kind of exploring that in yourself in ways that you never thought were possible, or like you're being exposed to new mindsets and lines of thinking. It's really like a fast-paced, creative, and competitive sort of process that's really intoxicating.
It really is. And it's so fun, not even if you're not even playing it, but just to watch those players who are of that high caliber, to see the kinds of maneuvers they can pull out and the coordinated attacks they can do is just so satisfying sometimes.
Hmm. Now, let me see here. So, few last things here, and then I have a little exercise I wanna
Oh
start
my,
doing.
oh my. Okay.
Okay, so let me just reposition here. If there is one thing you can say you're proud of about you or your stream, what would you say that standout thing is? Is it the same as what you said at the beginning in regards to your elevator pitch, or would you say there might be a bit of a different answer here?
Um, I just kind of want to default back to the community itself and the people who have been able to come together as a result of it, because we've been able to do fundraising streams for our own community members who are in a tough spot financially with medical issues that they can't pay for, or insurance isn't going to cover it. And it's just, it gives me goosebumps to think about how they can come together like that and how they're more than willing to put forward their own money or their own well wishes or anything like that, just to help out other people who are within our little corner of the internet. And I think that that wouldn't be possible without the people themselves who have come as a result.
Awesome. Now, last question of mine, and then the little exercise. But if there was something you could say right now to every single other content creator, streamer, person in that you would consider sort of in line as with you as a peer, whether they're the same level as you, getting started or very well established. What is something from your unique perspective that if you could get your word out there, what would that be?
Just keep pushing yourself, keep striving to learn, even if you're not in school anymore. This is an environment in which you need to stay on your toes and you need to be more than willing to embrace that difficulty and that learning curve that I mentioned before, and to always push yourself to become a better streamer for it, because it will show in your content produced, in the people that come to your stream, in the people you meet as a result of this. Just that continued thirst for an improvement in your own streaming is going to reflect so well on you.
All right, thank you for that.
Hmm.
Now, the closing bit. I don't know if you're familiar at all with a television program called Inside the Actors Studio. It's hosted by a gentleman named James Lipton, and he has famous actors on his show. Are you familiar with this at all?
No, but to be fair, I don't really watch much TV, so this is probably a me thing.
That's okay. I was honestly only introduced to it through my background in drama. But it's fascinating. He sits down and he really has these incredible conversations with famous people, namely actors, and he gets really interesting things out of them. And at the end of each of his shows, he has a series of 10 questions that he asks. They're originally from a French series called Bouillon de Culture. I'm not even going to try to say it correctly.
That sounded great to me. I don't speak French, so that was,
probably
really good.
I probably offended at least a couple of people. But see, I'm going to try and say the guy's name, and I'm going to be offensive again. Bernard Pivot. No, it's Pivot,
no.
but I'm going to assume Pivot because it's French.
Oh no, that sounds good.
And these are sort of just generally provocative questions. They get interesting answers out of people. So I thought it'd be fun going forward. So Peach, you were spared. Aoina, you're the guinea pig here. We're gonna ask these questions and just say what's in your heart. Be true to yourself, okay?
Okay, I can do this. Okay.
What is your favorite word?
Chimichanga.
All right, Deadpool fan.
It's so satisfying to say.
Chimichanga. Yeah.
Chimichanga.
Oh, you said it fast. Chimichanga,
Yeah,
chimichanga.
Chimichanga.
You
make better.
The way you say it, you make it sound like a tribal chant. Chimichanga.
Chimichanga.
All right. Now, what is your least favorite word?
Moist. I'm gonna go with moist.
Oh.
Oh, it just sounds cringy.
I use it to make my wife uncomfortable. I say
See? It's just awkward.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
No. I get that. I think it's fun and it's funny to say. I don't like it as much when it's being said to me.
See?
Yeah. Okay. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Ooh, that's actually a pretty dang good one. I'm gonna have to say the great outdoors. I'm in Colorado, so I've got access to these glorious mountains. So just looking outside and seeing that is just, it kind of puts everything into perspective for you and makes you want to push that a little bit further.
Nice. Okay. And now, what turns you off?
Ooh, probably power outages.
Final answer. Is that your final answer?
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, I'm sticking with it.
All right, you're a bit of a shit, aren't you?
Dude, I didn't make one pun this entire time.
That's true. No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
your in-stream currency is called now punny.
Yeah.
It's a thing. Her bot, Aoina has a bot for her channel, as many streamers do. But one of the fun little things that it does is, I think you can do a command and it will randomly post a pun in the chat.
It's on a timer, so it'll automatically do
it
it regardless.
Was a timer. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can also call a pun out as well if you're impatient and you want another.
Now, what is your favorite curse word?
Ooh,
No
see,
filter.
this isn't necessarily a curse word, but I really like saying sweet fried rice, like in exasperation.
Okay.
Does that count?
I mean, do you use it as a curse word?
I do. Like I'll go sweet fried rice.
Well,
God bless America. Like really. I do. It's one of my highlights, I think, even the last time I did this.
that's hey, you know what? At the end of the day, a swear word is really all it is societal context and intent. So if
the intent is there, believe me.
Well, there you are. Intent is 50% of it, so we'll go with that. Sweet fried rice.
Sure. Sweet fried rice.
Now, what sound or noise do you love?
Ooh. This is making me think like the whole ASMR thing. A bunch of people in my community love the ASMR.
Okay.
But I think the sound I like more than anything is when my dog does his singing sound. He makes the best like singing barking sound, and it makes me happy.
Care to poorly attempt it?
Oh yeah. No, it's like and then it gets like it goes down in volume and it's amazing.
Nice. That's a good one.
It's a really nice sound. I like it.
Now,
It's
what
cute.
what is a sound or noise that you hate?
When people take their utensils and they scrape them on their plates, it is just like it's just like shudder inducing. It's terrible.
That sound of cheap metal being scraped across ceramic.
It like that. I will be in the middle of like I haven't eaten all day and I'll be starving and I'll be like I'm gonna eat all this steak and then someone does that. I'm like I'm done. I've had 2 bites. I'm done.
Wow.
Yeah, it's gross.
All right. Now, what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
It used to be doctor, but when I was a kid, I really, 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 really wanted to be a scientist that studied turtles and nothing else.
I have the biggest stupid grin on my face. That's adorable.
I just wanted to study turtles. Turtles are great.
All right. What is it about turtles that drew you to them in that way?
They were just so slow on land, and then in water, they could just move so quickly and do really, really neat things. They were like this dichotomy, and I really liked them, and they were really cute, and they were my favorite color, green.
Did you use the word dichotomy when you were little?
No. I'm gonna be real with you, no.
I did not use any of these words when I was anywhere near that age either. Don't worry.
Okay. Phew.
You didn't say dichotomy when you were 6?
Wow. Developed a little slower than the rest of us, huh? Okay, then.
Wow. Okay. Now, what is a profession you would not like to do if you had to single one out?
In the same line of it, now that I've learned more about it, I would never, ever, 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 ever become a doctor after having learned everything that goes into that. No, thank you.
Okay. You know enough about it to know very clearly and specifically why you don't want to do that.
Yeah, knowledge. Well, ignorance is bliss, and knowledge totally ruins that bliss, so.
Okay. Now, last question, and then there's something that I forgot to ask in the earlier interview, so I'll kind of ask it, and then we'll wrap things up.
Sure.
Now, actually, I'll save this last question, and I'll ask you the one that I forgot to ask, and then we'll kind of finish on that last question. So, my question was, why the duck theme?
Oh my god.
Where did that come from? Because Aoina, she has a dear listeners, she has a bit of a duck theme going with her stream. There's like a little chat mini game with her bot where you can migrate from the duck pond, and lots of little duck jokes. Her older overlays, she just recently has updated them, but they were very purple and they very clearly had the classic shape of like a vector of the shape of a rubber duck on it. So where did that come from?
Oh, this is 2 parts. First part is, again, Dead by Daylight. Like, so much of my stream can be attributed to those beta Dead by Daylight games. But in Dead by Daylight, for those of you who don't know, it's an asymmetrical horror with survivors versus a killer. And I was pretty good in that game, and I was always getting paired up with these new players. And during one of these matches, these poor players were obviously totally new to it, didn't know what they were doing, and they just kind of kept following me around in a line. So I just started jokingly referring to them as my ducklings. And they all died, but they were my ducklings for that round. And then after that, people in the chat started referring to themselves as ducklings of mine, and that kind of stuck, and it was just kind of a little funny in-game thing. But then it got taken to the next level when I streamed Hotiful Boyfriend.
Okay. I remember recently seeing you have violent reactions in your Discord server. I didn't see you stream it, but...
Yeah, and then they just latched onto it, and they were like, oh, it's a bird theme. We're birds now, everybody. It's birds, ducks. We need bird rankings and things like that. And so I gave them what they wanted.
You are a woman of the people.
It's true. It's true.
All right, thank you for that. That's Adoptful Boyfriend of all things.
Regret.
Now that that's out of the way, final question. of the Pivot questionnaire. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You will be remembered.
That's profound. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that concludes our interview with Aoina. Thank you very much, Aoina, for being here with me and being the interviewee in this second episode of the series, emzed Interviews. Any closing words?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun. You're a great interviewer, and it was just a blast with all the questions that you had. So I enjoyed myself.
Thank you. I'm glad that you did. I feel like I got a lot out of that, and hopefully you listeners are able to take something out of that for yourselves. Again, the idea behind this is we're going to talk to all sorts of different people, get all sorts of different perspectives, because at the end of the day, I think that everyone's unique perspective is valuable, and we all have something useful to gain from each other. And I think it's important that we make sure that we pay attention to each other and stay open. So hopefully this helps you on your journey, wherever it is that you feel like you are in that journey in regards to expanding and pushing yourself to move forward. But once again, thank you very much, Aoina, for joining us here. And thank you, dear listeners, for being here. And yeah, we're going to close that one off. We'll see you next time on the next installment of emzed Interviews. Thanks for listening.